you. Good morning. You're not Ryder.
I know. I mean, you had to know whenever you invited me to be your co-host of the day that it would be the latest start we've ever had.
I just think it's impressive.
Hmm.
Always setting new records.
Of course.
Well, good morning, everybody. It is November 2nd, Tuesday. Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday.
And yesterday we talked a little bit about... This is where Reed starts to blank on what we talked about.
My brain isn't awake enough for that yet.
Yeah, this is how it goes sometimes. But I know for sure we talked a little bit about burning the candle at both ends because our challenge was for somebody who maybe is always doing too much, a challenge for them to take a break, even if just for a short little while. And our way of helping along with that challenge was kicking Ryder out for a day. So Ryder, we forced him to take the day off and said, Ryder, sleep some more. But, he's probably already up working on his shop. I had to guess. And the other side of that challenge was if you're somebody who maybe you're not someone who's always burning candles at both ends. Maybe there's something that you could have been working on or you could work on for a short period of time where you spend in a little more time, a little more effort, recognizing that it's going to be a little bit worse. It's a little bit sucky in the short term, but in the long term, it will totally be worth it. So this is a reminder of the challenge in case you guys have not done it yet. There is always still more time. And also on our show today, we have special guest Lincoln on the couch. So even if you're not someone to normally go look at the YouTube video, go look at the YouTube video, episode 26 on Tuesday, November 2nd, 2021, so you can check out the cuter puppers. He's just chilling on the couch, living his best life.
He's being very
Oh, yeah, he's not camera shy at all.
Hi, Dad. Good morning.
Good morning. Oh, man. Well, Danielle, it is now November.
That's terrifying.
Why is that terrifying?
Oh, the end of the year, all the stuff I haven't done yet.
That's the spirit. Well,
But, there's still 60 days to do it, so
get it all in while you
Yeah.
still can. There you go. Maybe there's you get to participate in yesterday's challenge,
Oh.
the crunch time challenge.
I thought it was the relax time challenge.
It was either one, so you get to choose crunch time or relax time, whichever one you feel like you need more.
If you give me the choice, then that's my problem as a procrastinator. I'm like, if you give Danielle a cookie, she will take the full amount of time.
That sounds like a good children's book.
The Procrastinator Mouse.
Give Danielle a cookie. Well, November is also known for something in the writer community. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, so it's called Nanowrimo. It's like a nonprofit organization, and I forget how many years it's been going now, but basically a bunch of writers around the world sign up and commit to writing 50,000 words in the month of November. And that can be, it started out writing novels, but now people commit to the 50,000 words and split it across multiple projects. Or there's bloggers who say, I'm going to write a blog post every day of this month, and then the total words in the blog post will add up to 50,000 at the end of the month. Or you're writing memoir, nonfiction. You can be writing anything, but it's basically about building that daily writing habit and committing to making significant progress on something where really the only thing stopping you is your own determination and your own commitment to sit your butt in a desk and write words.
I was grabbing my coffee real quick. I missed if you explained what the acronym was. Did you?
Oh, I did not.
Okay, I didn't think you did.
That's probably important. So NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month. They just took like the first 2 or 3 letters from each word. So National Novel Writing Month.
Nano.
Right. W-R-I.
Right.
Mo. Yeah.
Mo. That is such a word right there.
Yep.
And did you say you knew how long they've been doing that for?
I did not. I want to say it started in either the late 90s or early 2000s, so I think it's close to like around 20 years going, but I could be wrong.
That's pretty impressive.
It might not be that long. Maybe it's more like 2010, but I don't know. Don't trust anything I say, basically. I feel like I should put a disclaimer coming on Reed's podcast. He wants to be well researched, and I'm someone who usually talks out of my butt, so...
It reminds me of that Ace Ventura movie, Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. You seen that?
No, I've never.
What?
Nuh-uh.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, that's one of those like stupid comedies, right? So
but it has
I feel
pet
like,
in the title.
I know, but
You're
I
an
would
animal
have to
person.
be in the mood for a stupid comedy, and also probably be with someone who watched it and recommended it as like an actual good and funny stupid comedy versus one. I'm not gonna just like probably give one a try for myself. So. Regardless of if it has Pet Detective in the title. In fact, if it has Pet Detective in the title, I might be more inclined to not watch it, because if it's stupid comedy with pets in it, then there's a high likelihood of some slapstick comedy involving some animals, and maybe I don't want to see that.
All right, you heard it here first. Danielle, who does not research things before talking, but will not watch funny comedies unless she's done a bunch of research or had other people do it for her, at least. Well, you should definitely see that at some point. It is a classic, and it involves a scene where Jim Carrey talks out of his butt. So that's why it made me think of it. Oh, hello, Mike. Moving around on me a little bit. So, for those of you who are watching us on YouTube, you can see on the screen Nanowrimo, Nanowrimo, and you can just Google that, and I'm sure you will find whatever you're looking for with it. It's a cool thing to be a part of, and one of the reasons I think that's so successful is because there's so many people doing it, and they're all doing it together, and they're all struggling at the same time, and then there's some people you see who are making progress, and that helps inspire the other people and things like that. So by creating that larger community, it makes people participate more. A similar example is going to the gym. You know, there's one. I don't have them handy, but there's been studies that show that people who join or go to exercise together are more likely to keep up, because they're, wanting to be accountable to their friends or coworkers or just random gym mates. They're more likely to be there because, Bob's going to be there and Susie's going to be there. I should probably go. Versus if it's just yourself in a dark room holding your own self accountable, you're probably not going to be as likely to do that. So, well, Danielle, yesterday we attended an event. Would you like to talk about that event?
Sure, I can talk about it.
Sure.
So, this is another word that I should have looked up the meaning for before this morning. But yesterday was the first time I celebrated and attended a Samhain event, which is spelled Samhain. And I'm actually not super familiar with all of the history and whatnot, but I think it began as the pagan Halloween or All Saints Day, Day of the Dead. There's a lot of, I guess, different holidays that fall around this weekend from October 28th through today, I think, is Dia de los Muertos celebrated. And so last night we attended a Samhain celebration, which is all about honoring our ancestors and the celebration of death as a cycle of life. I read a meme yesterday that said, death is not the opposite of life. It's the opposite of birth. Non-existence is the opposite of life. So death is just it's like the continuation or the closing of the cycle that begins at birth, and then it's also a new beginning in itself. If you believe in reincarnation and all of that. So
Yeah, well, it was a very interesting celebration. I don't think I'd been to anything like that before.
Mm-mm.
Um, so yeah, that was a really interesting thing. We started out when we got there. They explained a little bit about what was going to happen,
Mm-hmm.
and then they did started off with a little bit of Kundalini, which is yoga and meditation combined. And today we're working on all the words that are hard to spell.
Yes.
Kundalini. Let's try and take a crack at it. Kundalini.
A Lini.
I was just wondering if there's an H in there somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Kundalini. Kundalini. And it's kind of like this mix between meditation and yoga. And fortunately for last night, it was mostly meditation and not so much yoga, since people were kind of wearing nicer clothes and things
Yes.
like that. So we started off with a little bit of meditation, and then they did something called Reiki, which is a type of energy manipulation. And essentially what happened was we were laying down on the ground, and there was a lady up front playing a gong, which is actually pretty cool because you can really feel kind of the vibrations of the gong in the air.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who aren't aware, sound is literally just pressure, air pressure. It's the air is literally vibrating. If you've ever been driving down the street and all of a sudden you feel that which is what a subwoofer sounds like. You got those
job.
people who blare their rap music or whatever, and they've got the big subwoofers in their trunk. You can literally feel the sub.
Or if you're like me and you blast Taylor Swift and Joni Mitchell and you really just feel those lyrics pounding in your soul.
Yeah, that's the same. That's the same. But yeah, part of it is the reason you can feel a sub is because the lower frequencies, they travel farther. And so that's one of the cool things about this gong is you can literally feel the vibrations in the air. So as you're laying there, your eyes are closed, you're focused, and you feel these vibrations. And then another lady came around and did this Reiki, and she used the energy magic or however you want to describe it, to I forget the exact purpose she had.
Yeah, so I don't know exactly the terminology for Kundalini or Reiki yet, but I think so. In thinking about Kundalini in the mix of yoga and meditation, I would say it's highly focused on breath work and using the pattern of breathing, how long you're holding breaths, whether you're inhaling or exhaling, whether you're inhaling through your mouth or your nose or one nostril or the other. So I would say Kundalini is a lot about breath work, and then Reiki would maybe be called energy work. I've heard that term before, but yeah, I don't know all exactly what that entails.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and that's one of the interesting things. So to finish describing what we did, she did the energy thing, and then after that, there was a ceremony where we wrote down the names of some ancestors, or what was one other thing we could write down?
Samhain is the witch's new year, so it's also a time of releasing anything that doesn't serve you and leaving it in the past. So any bad habits you're wanting to release, or if there's a mindset shift you're wanting, something you've felt tied to or attached to and you're wanting to say, no, that no longer serves me, write it on the piece of paper and put it in the fire.
Yeah, and right before we did that meditation, we did right before we did that, I guess, fire cleansing.
Fire ritual.
Ritual, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We did a meditation where it was 7 generations forward and 7 generations back. So we were asking for blessings, essentially, or for our the 7 generations forward, and asking for something else from the 7 generations behind us.
Yeah, what was it? I guess it was
advice and guidance.
Yeah.
I think is kind of what it was.
Mm-hmm.
So then after we did that, then we did the fire ritual, and then we had some refreshments and chatted and hung out, and we ate something called soul cakes, which are related to Dia de los Muertos, I believe.
So I think soul cakes, well, I think they are related to both, but I think All Souls Day and All Saints Day in the Catholic faith may have, probably adopted soul cakes from Dia de los Muertos or
Gotcha.
Samhain. But
Yeah. Well, we have a special guest in our chat today. We have Ryder Richards. He is saying Kundalini graphic. At least we've got the spelling of Kundalini right, so that's good.
Yes.
I'm not sure what he meant by graphic, but he's just making an appearance anyways.
Is there another, we can find out later.
Yeah, feel free to clarify if you're still there. But otherwise, I wanted to point out that, for some people, this stuff may sound a little crazy, a little cuckoo, a little out there. But I also want to point out that this is something that Danielle, especially, and myself included, is all new to us. We're looking into these things. We're learning. We're going with an open mind. What are your thoughts on that, Danielle? You were kind of the one who got a little bit more into this. Some of the terms people use are woo-woo or mystical, or what are other words you've heard? Anything else besides those two?
Metaphysical, spiritual,
Yeah. So what got you looking into this side of things?
So I think it was tarot. In 2019, we were traveling in the RV for the second time, and I think we were playing casino, and casino is a card game where you like turn over 4 cards in the middle of the table, and then you're like adding cards together to take them. Math. And then I've always been really big on like looking for signs, synchronicities. Reed's blocking my and looking for like numbers as a sign. So I've always had a thing with the number 29. So there was one time where like a 2 and a 9 flipped out on the table in front of me, and I had the thought like, ooh, that would be cool if there was a way to like get messages from your spirit guides or your ancestors or God from flipping cards out. And I'm like, oh, hey, I think there's something for that. That's called tarot cards. And so I started just looking into tarot reading, and if you had to be a gifted medium or psychic, and turns out we can all have psychic abilities. It's just a matter of developing them mindfully, and it's just like any other skill or practice. But as children, we are told usually, oh, that's just your imagination, ghosts aren't real, all these things that dampen our inherent natural psychic abilities. And I thought it would just be cool to be like, I always wanted to be a medium, but I never thought I could be. I thought you had to have that gift from a child. But I'm going to try and see if I can start interacting with spirits and my ancestors and having a more personal relationship with God and Jesus. Because growing up, I feel like I always wanted to have that like I so clearly heard the voice of God and like what I'm supposed to do. And I feel like I've never really had that. So that was kind of why I guess I started exploring, and then just being open to, I kind of feel like a lot of religions are saying the same things in different ways. And like we visited a Hindu temple when we were traveling in the RV. And then there was, when we were going to Texas A&M, they had some seminar about Islam and the Quran, and like reading sections of it that were literally like Bible verses, and just kind of realizing I just feel like religion is a human creation, and we're all trying to connect with the same divine, however our understanding of that is. And so I feel like coming to the event last night and like being open to a different religion's way of looking at things, I've been enjoying exploring.
Yeah, I think it's a great thing to explore, and I think religion is one of those areas that I would say the vast majority of people do not explore. And when I say the vast majority, I honestly think like 97, 98%. I think that, and I would be curious to know stats on this. I just made that up off the top of my head.
I was going to ask, is that coming from anywhere?
No, thank you for checking. But I would not be surprised if that high. I feel like the vast majority of people kind of accept whatever came to them from the people before them, and don't question it. And I'm sure there are plenty of people who do question it. And then I'm sure there's plenty of people who kind of question it, at least in America. This seems to kind of be the trend, is like, all right, the vast majority of people are Christian of some denomination. And then as they are growing up, they go to church, and it's almost like a chore sometimes. It seems like, oh, every Sunday we got to go do the thing. And, and if you're, a part of a larger, more stricter participant type of religion, like Judaism or Mormonism, instead of just like, oh, got to go for an hour, it's, oh, let's spend the whole day, and can't do anything else this entire day besides rest and church. And so then it's like this, all right, you got to go. And then as people grow up and they get a little older and they are out on their own, maybe they start going a little less and eventually stop going altogether. And then, of course, some people, and I'm sure I was a little high on my stat, but the point was to illustrate, I think we could all benefit from exploring a little bit more and having an open mind. And I want to point out that, one, it's really brave for you, Danielle, to come on here and talk about this thing. And I think it's important to note that anytime you're exploring something new, you're not going to know all of the answers, and you're not going to know all the right terms, and you're going to mess something up. And I think that's okay. And I think that's part of the process. And, another thing that pops to mind when we're talking about religion is cultural appropriation, which is a term that you hear thrown around plenty of times when it's like, oh, well, you're just taking that part of the culture so you can use it for your own purposes or whatever. And I'm personally, I'm not that big of a fan of that term. I think it kind of prevents some people from engaging with the culture that they might not ever engage with otherwise. For example, maybe some people do something for Dia de los Muertos, but they don't do it in the right way, or they're just kind of, maybe they just draw the skeleton on their face or something like that without fully understanding it. And yeah, of course, I wish that they did a little more work and learned a little bit more about it. But if it's one or the other, it's like you're doing it, but it's kind of wrong versus not doing it at all. I would kind of say I'd rather you do it and at least a little bit, because then you're at least somewhat engaging. And of course, there are plenty of ways that you can use it in a more negative way, right? And that's the type of thing I think people should avoid. But yeah, do you have any thoughts on that cultural appropriation thing, or not so much?
My first thought is that I don't know if you, maybe it's a part of your privilege that you say like, oh, I don't like the term cultural appropriation. Or,
sure. Yeah, it's very good to recognize.
And also, I mean, I would venture to say, you probably have never felt like your culture has been appropriated.
Well, to feel like you have your culture appropriated, you need to feel like you have a culture that you strongly associate with, which is one of the things for me. I don't really feel like I have a really strong culture that I tie myself to. I'm part Texan, I'm part Southern, I'm part American, I'm 25% Mexican, but yet part of me, since I don't know, diced so many different ways, and I don't really have any strong cultural ties to any of those things. That's part of the thing that's interesting for me, is I don't feel that strong, culture towards something. And I'm sure there are plenty of people who feel similar ways, and especially when it comes to something like skin color. It's like, well, my skin happens to be black, but I don't tie myself to black culture. And obviously I can't speak for them, right? But same kind of thing. My skin happens to be white, but I don't have a strong culture towards being white. You know what I mean? Do you feel like you have strong ties towards any particular culture? No?
I guess not. I feel like we're venturing into dangerous territory here, getting very uncomfortable.
Well, again, thank you for talking about it. The other thing I wanted to just briefly point out was, when it comes to things like religion, it's very easy for people to get very defensive and and attacking, and it's like, oh, what are you doing, and grr. And so that's one of the things, especially for a lot of the religions, but especially for Christianity. One of the things is understanding and forgiveness, right? And so that's and empathy type of things. So that's what I encourage you guys to tap into, and explore a little bit yourselves, and maybe look into some of these things, and at least see the history. If nothing else, you can kind of learn a little bit about the background and the culture, and understand what some other people are doing, even if you choose to not participate in it yourself. And also, if you do learn more about it and understand it more, then you can prevent yourself from accidentally doing cultural appropriation. And of course, it would have been much better if I had that definition handy, so we could have more better talked about that.
Well, one of the things I was gonna actually say in the spiritual community, one of the terms that is talked about under a cultural appropriation is smudging versus smoke cleansing. So the act of smudging is taking a sage bundle and lighting it, and cleansing your space with the smoke of the sage. From my understanding, calling it smudging is a ancient Native American, maybe other cultures as well. It's a practice that's very spiritual and meaningful, and done with a very specific intention in a certain way. And if you don't fully know all what that ritual or that meaning entails, then I guess you're really not supposed to call it smudging. That term is reserved for that particular ritual. So then in that case, you might call it smoke cleansing, where you just walk around with your incense or sage bundle, Palo Santo stick, whatever. But yeah, that's one of those terms that I know is talked about in the community.
Yeah, and it has a slight difference with the official term versus what some people are doing, thinking that.
Right.
So yeah, the bottom line is to be curious, be open, be accepting, and to check some of these things out. And guess what? I'm one of the most logical, rational, science-backed people you'll meet probably, and I'm checking this stuff out. And yeah, I have all sorts of doubts, and I don't necessarily believe all of these things. But what's the harm in me looking into it a little bit? And also, I enjoy coming at it from that angle, and recognizing like, okay, what part of this is based in something, what part of this is psychology, what part of this has to do with the way culture was developed back in the day. Because that's one of the interesting things about these, I'll call it the mystical arts, if you will, is a lot of the practices are hundreds, if not thousands of years old, which I think is cool. It just in and of itself, right? Now I'll definitely, be one to say that just because something's been done a really long time or been done by a lot of people does not mean that it is necessarily true. But at the very least, it makes it more interesting and worth looking into. And also another real thing with all of this stuff is the placebo effect is a real thing. That has been scientifically proven. And for those of you who have not heard of the placebo effect, the most common example given with that is sugar pills. And so basically they've done studies where they say, hey, if we give 5 people the real pill that has some kind of effect on them, and 5 people the sugar pill.
Or 20 for statistically significant.
Yeah, good point. Yes, I'm using really small numbers just to make the math easy, but they do this on a very large scale. They give 5 people the real pill and 5 people this fake pill, which is just a sugar pill. It doesn't really have any effect on them. They've found that you can still feel some or have some sort of effect from that placebo. And so with all of this stuff, whether it be this mystical things, or whether it be, frankly, even any of the major religions that you may believe in, the bottom line with all religions is they cannot be definitively proven, at least not right now. With every religion, and maybe not every, but at least most religions, most major religions, there's some gap where faith is required.
That's the point,
and
probably.
that's probably the point, right? And And if you look at it from the creator perspective or whatnot, by having that gap of faith there, you are requiring people to believe something, to put trust in something, right? But yeah, so you can't scientifically prove anything, but if you believe it and you feel some effects from it, or you have some changes that you make from it, then guess what? Even if that thing's completely fake, it's still a real effect. So that's why I'm always interested. And again, if nothing else, just to understand other people and to learn a little bit more. Because guess what? If I say the word witch, what do you think the words are that come to mind for the average American? Or what do they think?
Evil, witch hunt, devil worshiper.
Yeah, Salem witch trials,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. Like they're maybe voodoo, all these things that like one, they already existed in society and culture before, but now, especially over the last, I don't know, 40 years or so, they've shown up more and more in books and movies and TV shows. And yeah, and so a lot of times it has this negative connotation. So it's been really interesting to learn about it from a more open and learning perspective, to see a little bit more what it's about, and answering questions like, oh, well, can you be a witch and still be a Christian, or a Jew, or a Muslim, or something like that, or are they just completely against each other? And the short answer with all these things is we don't know completely yet. We're still learning, but it's just one of those things that we're exploring. So let's jump back to something else, but I wanted to highlight real quick. Ryder clarified in the comments that the link he posted, or the comment he posted earlier, was a link to a graphic.
Oh,
That's why it said
that's what I was
Kundalini
wondering.
graphic. But on our software, it just doesn't show up as a link to us. So that's good to know.
Cool.
So yeah, if you're interested in checking that out, there's a link in the YouTube chat, and it's a wiki link, the graphic about how Kundalini works to open chakras. And we'll probably talk a little bit more about Kundalini yoga and some of these other things on another day, and we'll be talking about those probably with some experts as well, so they can tell us a little bit more about the history and the terminology. And today we were just kind of telling you some of the things that we roughly picked up off the top of our head, and Danielle's telling you some things with no prep at all, and so yes, please have some grace for us as if we messed up some of these terminologies and things like that. Again, just talking about opening that conversation, and if you guys have any questions about that, or you'd like to talk about it, please jump in the comments below, or contact us through our website, helpfulforlife.com. Well, so another thing that Danielle and I wanted to do today was a tarot reading. Are you open to doing a tarot reading?
Sure.
It is Tuesday, so let's get a tarot reading set up. So we're going to take a quick 30-second-ish break here, and we'll put on some music while we do that. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, I'm Reed Garcia,
I'm Danielle Garcia.
and this is the morning show brought to you by Helpful for Life. And we just finished talking a little bit about, I'm going to mess up the pronunciation, the celebration we just talked about. Samhain. We just talked about a celebration called Samhain, which has its roots. It's a pagan celebration. I think it goes back to Celtic roots. But it's spelled Samhain. It's spelled Samhain, but it's pronounced Samhain. And so we just spent a good bit talking about that and a little bit about the mystical side of things, and talked about how we're being open to it and looking into it, and just curious and seeing what other things are out there. And some we'll take, some we'll leave, and we'll go from there. But now we're transitioning to something also slightly mystical, tarot. So Danielle is going to do a tarot reading for us today. So Danielle, what kind of tarot reading would you like to do today?
I don't know. Do you have any ideas?
Let's see. No. Do you always start with a question or intention, or do you ever just kind of pull cards?
Most days I'm just saying, what is my message for today? Or like what, or sometimes I just pull one card, like what was my dream last night? Or what was I supposed to learn from my dream messages last night? Or you can just pull a card and say, I'm going to be mindful of noticing where elements or themes from this card pop up throughout my day.
Cool. Well,
so let's do that.
Yeah, let's just keep it pretty open, and
keep
then
it simple.
Yeah, let's get this started.
So I'm going to pull a card for you today, Reed.
Okay.
Specifically. But, I mean, it can also apply for anyone else wanting to reflect upon it. But I'm going to say this is your card of the day.
Alrighty then.
Oh, that one wanted to be the card. Did you see how it flipped as I was shuffling?
Yeah, so what do you call that?
So I call out those like jump outs or flip outs, and some people say spirit pushed it out. But so this is the I don't know, you can hold that. It's the High Priestess. So there's the two parts of a tarot deck, the major arcana and the minor arcana. The minor arcana is the 4 suits. So that part of the deck, and then the major arcana, they have the Roman numerals up top, and they're known by a name or a title for the card, each relating to a different major soul lesson or journey in life. So the major arcana goes from card 0 to 20, 21, or 22. I think it's 21 because there's 22 cards. And starts out with the Fool is the first card of the tarot deck. And so the journey of the major arcana is the Fool's journey. Like if you've heard of, so Nanowrimo, if you've looked into novel or story structure at all, you might be familiar with something called the hero's journey. And it's a way to outline or plot a story that is very common throughout many, many books and movies like Harry Potter, The Wizard of Oz. Basically, there's a hero at the beginning who is assigned a task, and then the book or the story follows them going outside of their normal life to go on this mission where they're the chosen one. And so in the tarot deck, the Fool is the chosen one. And anyways, but we can look at the Fool another day. But this is card... So it's the Fool, then there's the Magician is card 1, and then the High Priestess is card 2. So it's very early on in the journey of the soul, and it's about coming to know your intuition and, I guess, learning more about the mysteries of life and deciding where you personally stand. And so this woman, she's wearing a cross, and it actually says Torah on her book that she's holding. So I'm trying to think of oh, okay. So there's sometimes there's pairs in the major arcana. So the high priestess, I think she's kind of seen as being similar to the magician. The magician is card 1, and is basically coming to know your personal power and manifestation. Which I think, like, I'm trying to decide of a good definition for magic or witchcraft in general. And I think one that I've come to, or I had the idea this morning, was magic is using your God-given free will intentionally and mindfully to manifest your desires. So the card right before this is talking about kind of harnessing that power and using all of the tools at your disposal. One of those tools, which is our free will as humans, to create change in the world. And the magician is like card number 1, starting out. You are, I guess, exploring how you can create magic in the world. And then the high priestess is more about going internal and, I think, evaluating beliefs and coming to know the voice of your intuition over other sources for beliefs out
well,
there.
I would say what a card to pop out right after our conversation just now, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Can I see that card real quick? So yeah, just to describe the card for those who, again, if you're listening to audio only format, you can see this both live and after the fact on YouTube. Helpful for life. You can just type that in and you should be able to find us. And so you can see a video of how this goes and what the cards look like. So I'll describe the card. So there's a black frame around the whole card, and it's got the Roman numeral 2 on it. And then there's a lady who looks like she is kind of sitting on a throne or something. And she has some sort of crown with a couple of horns coming out of it. She has a golden tapestry behind her. In her hand, she has a scroll that has the word Torah on it. To her left and right are 2 columns. One of them is black with the letter B, and the other one is white with the letter J. And it's very hard to not make a joke about BJ on here.
Yeah, that's the BJ card. That's what I think of whenever I see it.
Yeah.
Too, so.
And then at the bottom, there are these 2 kind of golden horns just kind of, I don't know, floating in there or
it might be
or
a
at the
crescent
bottom.
moon at her feet. Like actually, yeah.
Hold it up.
That looks like 2 horns.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, and then I don't know if those are like papayas behind her. Don't those kind of look like papayas?
Papayas.
Or guavas or
On the tapestry. I'm not sure.
How do you say it?
Something on the
Make some
back. Yeah. So yeah, that's an interesting card. So to recap, tell us the card, just this card and what it is.
The High Priestess. So, and now I'm second guessing if I'm more talking about. There's a card called the Hierophant. Is that it?
Let's just focus on this one.
Well, I don't. Go look up the definition for the High Priestess. I don't know if what I was talking about was this one or another card. So there you go.
Okay. All right. Well, as we said here earlier, we may make some mistakes as we're going along the way, but we're working in the right direction. But regardless, the reading that you gave me, regardless of what that card definition is, it was about being open and looking internally and understanding and taking less from external sources. Those were some of the things that I latch onto. Were there a couple of other things from that I'm missing, or?
No, I think it feels relative to me too, because Megan is the Kundalini teacher that we went to her class last night, and she said that she's actually going to share a meditation with me for developing and strengthening your intuition. So, and she was like, I think it would be really cool if you could do this meditation every day for 40 days and then write a blog post or a weekly blog post about your experiences and your lessons and learnings and what kind of intuitive hits or what kind of information I start receiving as I tune in to potentially psychic intuitive senses. So this is exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and one thing that popped in my head that I wanted to point out, when you say the word magic, I feel like a lot of times people think, Harry Potter or something like that, where it's like, oh, let me, wave a wand and then fix my glasses or make a flame or a spark or something visual where it's very obvious and like, yeah, he just performed magic, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would say that differs a little bit from the definition of magic we're using here, which is more about energy and manifestation and basically and intentions and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. Why don't you tell us the kind of how a spell is defined in this term?
Yes. So, this is one of those, I guess, definitions where I still don't fully have it ironed out or exactly what I believe because I have not, I haven't really sat down and like created my own intentional spell work yet. But I think I have been creating spells my whole life. And I think we all do. If you want to look at it, for me, I think magic and witchcraft is a mindset. And it's a way that I choose to look at the world because it just feels more magical and feels better. So for me, when I'm making tea, or if I make, so like, let's say Reed has a cold and I want to make him a hot toddy. Then as I'm making it and I'm adding in the honey and stirring in the honey as it's dissolving, I'm thinking about, oh, I hope this honey soothes his sore throat and that the natural pollination from the bees soothes his allergies or whatever. And then as you stir counterclockwise, you're thinking about, oh, I want to banish this cold virus from his body. And so basically, I would say magic and spells is doing anything you choose to do with intention and mindfulness and being in that present moment, knowing the purpose for why you're doing what you're doing, and that you have real power to cause change in the physical world based on ideas, desires, thoughts that originated 100% within your mind. And all it is a thought and energy. And then by harnessing that and putting it out there in the world is how you start to create change. And I feel like that's probably sounded very high level and not practical, but
No, well, so I'll try and give a succinct rewording. Let me know how close it lands. So, when people think about magic in the typical like fiction sense, right?
mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, bubble, blubble, toil and trouble. I've got my ingredients, my cat's foot and my horse piss, and I mix it all together, and then I've got this
Yes.
potion, and then I drink this, and it's love potion number 9, and it makes someone fall in love with somebody of their choosing or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Things like that where it's like very strong and definitely is going to do the thing that I say and all that kind of stuff. Whereas the way you see it, at least, right, which is one of the things that has been interesting as I've learned more about this, is it's not as definitive, it's not as strictly defined as some other spiritual practices or religious practices. But you have these ingredients that you create something with, and as you're doing that, you are putting your intentions, you're kind of thinking, you're focusing, and you're putting those intentions into that thing to help create that in the world. And so that's kind of roughly how I would define it. Is that close enough?
Yes. Well, and I mean, there are definitely, I guess, more tangible manifestations of magic that I just have not experienced yet because I'm still very new working with my idea of magic as it
Yeah.
is right now. So yeah.
Yeah, and one thing I want to make sure to point out as well is as Americans and as people from the Western world, we're inherently kind of biased against the spiritual side of things and against the ghosts and things like that. You know, if you ask an average American, do you believe in ghosts or spirits? The a lot more people are gonna say no compared to some of the Eastern countries, you know, in Asia and things like that. And I believe Africa as well. And just a lot of other cultures basically are a lot more open to this idea. As opposed to the Americans. Americans, we're very biased against it. So I know as some of you are sitting there listening or watching, maybe you're shaking your fist and you say, grab your pitchforks, let's go get them. You know, maybe not that strongly feeling, but the point is make sure you recognize that that's one of your biases and start to question, like, wait, why do I think all of those things? And you probably think those things because you've seen them in movies and books and various, and maybe people in your life have told you that. But have you ever looked into it yourself? Have you ever kind of got to the brass tacks? Have you ever looked into it really to see what it's about? And that's I think that's kind of our challenge for today, is maybe look into some spiritual or religious practice that you haven't looked into before. And spirituality and religion is something we're definitely going to be discussing more, both on the show and with Helpful for Life as a whole. But yeah, go into it with an open mind. And again, do not go into it like feeling like you have to learn and change and do all these things, but just look into it and see, if nothing else, like, oh, what's different, what's similar, and how does that compare to what I thought or to the picture I had in my mind. And yeah, look into it, learn a little bit more about the history, the people, maybe some of the main tenets, and just yeah, get a more understanding. And if nothing else, it'll help you better understand your neighbor, or maybe if you don't have neighbors that are like that, other people on the internet or in the news or whatever. Just better help you understand other people and empathy. And who knows, maybe this will be one way that it can help you more intensify your spiritual and or religious practice. So that's the challenge for today. Do you have any thoughts or additions on that one, or
Just filter everything through your intuition. Like as you're learning new things, say like, does this feel good? Like something I want to explore more, or is this not really resonating with me personally?
yes? And today, and hopefully most days in the future, we're actually going to close out the show. We'll officially end the show, but then we're going to play some music for 10 minutes. And it's just kind of some chill, relaxed music to help you transition into whatever it is you may be doing next. So feel free to leave this on in the background, or of course, you can cut it off if you like. But if you want something kind of peaceful to have on while you're doing whatever it is you do next throughout your day, then leave this on. But with that has been it for the morning show. Very exciting episode today. And you guys have a wonderful Tuesday.
you.